This episode of the Party Loaded podcast is proudly sponsored by Audible.com. Check out their awesome catalogue of audiobooks with over 180,000 titles to choose from. And be sure to grab a free audiobook on us and support the show by visiting audibletrial.com/endgame.
Let's party.
Hello, welcome back to Party Loaded. This is Party Loaded episode 49 for Wednesday, the 26th of October, 2016. My name is Luke Retallick. I'm joined by the rest of the party as per usual. We have Jam, we have Memo, and we have Ollie.
Hey.
Welcome all.
Hello.
And we also have an extra member of the party tonight. So not a temp Jam, because temp Jam's actually here for a change when we do this kind of thing.
Yeah, whoops.
That's it. But we actually have none other than local gaming superstar and well-known throughout the rest of the Australian industry as well, Dr. Kate Raynes-Goldie. Welcome, and thanks for coming on and chatting to the Party Loaded crew tonight.
Oh, thanks. That's the best intro ever. Although I did get called an Insurgent last week, which is pretty good.
Oh, I did see that, actually.
I was like superstar.
Well, it's funny. Mentally, I was going through the venerable Dr. Kate, and I thought, no, venerable, that's almost like a slight. It makes people sound older than they actually are. But that's all right. Now I've gone and said it anyway, so it's kind of just reversed all the backtrack.
Yep.
Well, I got called a 12-year-old. Someone said I look like a 12-year-old the other day, so maybe I need some venerability if that's venerableness.
It's fine. I tend to act like a 12-year-old, so we could probably meet someone in the middle there.
Being said.
I think it was meant as a compliment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, cool. Dr. Kate is here tonight. She's a real doctor, of course, a real doctor of gaming, and we're going to talk about everything to do with your experience in the industry and working on games as a developer yourself and everything else. So that's going to be lots of fun. But yeah, it's been a pretty busy week. There's been lots of new stuff sort of going on in the industry as far as new tech announcements and some interesting stuff that Nintendo's doing. And we've got some pretty exciting things coming up very shortly in the form of PAX Australia. But we're going to chuck all of that onto the back half of the episode. And because we've got you for a set period of time tonight, Kate, we're going to jump straight in and pick your brain of everything that you have got going on at the moment, past, present, and future. So can we just, I guess, start with a bit of a history? Can you give us the abridged version of the Dr. Kate Raynes-Goldie story?
Okay, sure. So actually, my PhD is I started out. That's how I ended up in Australia. It was actually doing my PhD. Was on Facebook and privacy, but it was during my PhD that I started doing game design. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of tech and kind of cutting edge, looking at tech trends and tech culture for a really long time, which is how I ended up doing a PhD. And then I got hooked on game design because a friend of mine had gone to work for Microsoft Research, and he was an intern. And when you go and do that as an intern, they get you to play this the intern game, which is basically an alternate reality game. Mm-hmm. So he got really, really hooked on that. Brought it back to Toronto, where I was living at the time, and I helped him to run his own Toronto version, and that just got me hooked on game design. And so a lot of people think I'm a video game designer. I'm actually, I guess, now the term would be mixed reality game designer. So like pervasive games or games that use the physical world. So like Pokemon Go, everybody kind of gets what I do now thanks to Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
So
Andy.
Yeah. So I did my PhD, taught at university for a while, and then was running a bunch of game events like Play at Parse. And then FTI kind of found me, and they wanted to start a games program because they had traditionally supported film and TV. So they brought me in to create a games program for them, which I've been working on for about 2.5 years now. And so doing that half my time, the other half of the time still creating games and doing workshops and other really fun things. And it's kind of the best job ever. I feel very lucky.
Yeah, it certainly seems like a job where you've kind of set the agenda and you get to play with whatever you feel like doing at any given time because it's sort of caught your attention and captured your interest. It sounds like a really fun thing to do.
Yeah, I have to do boring things sometimes, but I mean, most of the time I get to do really fun things. I mean, who gets to say that, I need to go play this video game now because I need to know about it for work? I mean, how great is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One day that will be us. Yeah, the dream. The dream. So as part of my day job, when I'm not a podcaster, I work with a lot of kids trying to help them understand how people get to where they are and where that journey starts. So where did that start with you? Did you always know you wanted to work in the sort of social enterprise, and you said you wanted to, you're originally working in privacy and Facebook. Sort of what drew you to that sort of area initially?
Well, I mean, I had a bit of an interesting journey. I mean, I when I was really young, wanted to be an astronaut, and then got into computers and the internet, got really hooked on the internet and games. And internet and games are the two things my parents hated me doing, which is hilarious. And when I go to talk at school, kids love it when I tell them that story. It's like their favorite thing. But I mean, when I was going through, I mean, this makes me sound really old, but I mean, it wasn't really that long ago where you couldn't study the internet in school. You couldn't study games in school. So I did my undergrad in philosophy. And that was just kind of like philosophy and semiotics, which is the study of signs and meaning, which is like a toolbox for understanding other things. And that was how I used that to basically start looking at about things on the internet and analyzing things on the internet. And I turned out that I found out recently, kind of looking back, that I had written the first paper on internet memes back in 2002 and presented at the conference in Finland. It was just like none of this was planned. It just kind of happened. And then because for some reason I thought it would be fun to present at academic conferences when I was, an undergrad, which is not a normal thing to do. I met my PhD supervisor in Canada, and when he's from Perth, and he said, you should come and do a PhD. And I said, I don't know, because I was really young at the time. It seemed very scary. And so I went and after I graduated from my undergrad, went and worked for a few years and decided that was not exactly the most fun thing. I was working for a kind of underfunded social enterprise in Canada, which is interesting, but just kind of got burnt out. So I decided I wanted to do a PhD then, and that's how I ended up in Australia. And it's all just kind of been me following my passion and just following what interests me, and it's worked out really well. I don't know if that's a good recommendation for kids,
Perfect
but I think
recommendation.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to be practical about it as well. Like, if what you want to do is not practical, or you have to figure out a way of making it work. Not everything is going to work. I think it also is. I was very lucky that the things I was interested in also just happened to be very hot topics a lot of the time, so that's pretty useful. But I mean, I have a friend in Canada who did a PhD in religious studies, and that's a little bit more difficult. She did it on like one or two lines in the Bible, because that's what you do when you're doing religious studies. It's a very different world, so it's a lot harder for her, because she's very, very, very specialized, and so she's an academic. She's happy with that, but it's just a lot harder in terms of, I mean, she's following her passion, but yeah, you got to make it work for you.
So I guess the message we want to get at here is kids don't spend too long, researching internet memes, because it's not going to land you on this career path.
Someone's already done that. Yeah. It already exists. Someone once said to me that you have to balance what you do with what you love. And if you can find the perfect balance, then you've got the perfect job.
And also always having a backup plan. I think that's the best thing I can say is that, or a side hustle, the millennials call it. But it's always been really important, because I've also always had that, because a lot of people go into academia, for example, and just be like, I'm going to be an academic. And when I'm talking to people about pursuing an academic career, doing a PhD, I always say have a side hustle or have a backup plan, because things change, and if you just become super specialized, it just doesn't work these days. And it's always been, I've gotten myself out of tough situations with jobs, or just career stuff, by just always having something else that have in my back pocket, or something else that I'm working on. But I never really did it to have a side hustle. It was more just because I get bored and I love to keep learning. So if you had stuck with the plan of only wanting to be an astronaut, you might have ended up with quite a bit of space on your resume, is what you're saying.
Oh, no. Space pun.
Why?
I knew that was coming.
Sorry.
I somehow knew that was coming.
You're not sorry. Don't lie.
No, I'm not.
Obviously, in what I do, I'm aware of a lot of what you do as well, Dr. Kate. And one area that sort of we both kind of work in at the moment is advocating for women in STEM or STEAM, or now STEM. double M, positions.
I haven't heard that.
It was science, technology, engineering, maths, and medicine.
Oh, okay. Why don't we just have STEAM? Just have everything.
Yeah. That's what I've started calling it, and people think I'm having a stroke. So we'll see. It's getting very, very protracted at this stage. But one thing that you do, obviously is speak to young female students or aspiring women in those positions. Is there any sort of, we probably have a lot of young ladies who are listening to the podcast. If they want to pursue jobs in this area, is there any sort of advice or gems that you've come across in your experience that could maybe help them?
It's tough. Well, it's not tough, but there's just a lot of advice, and I don't know. Yeah, there's just a lot of advice that can be given, but I don't know how useful it always is, because there's some of it's very conflicting, and a lot of there's kind of an interesting article I just read where a lot of the diversity initiatives, it was critiquing Facebook's diversity initiatives, where they get a lot of people they featured a whole bunch of people to show how diverse Facebook was, but also to celebrate people in diversity, but they didn't pay anybody for it. And so it's kind of like blaming or putting the responsibility on the person who's marginalized to kind of overcome the problem. So it's a tough situation, because we do have to work harder as women, and we do have to take things into our own hands, and it is frustrating. And it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And I guess I would say, again, you have to follow what you want to do, and don't be discouraged, and get a really strong network around you. So there's really great resources on the internet. Like, for example, the widget group, the Women in Games and Everything Tech. Women in Game Design and Everything Tech is a really great resource. So just finding resources that can keep you kind of supported. And if you're facing challenges or discrimination or just, online harassment, having resources like that to support you and help you deal with it, and give you advice on how to proceed and make you feel not alone. And also groups, like local groups where you are, like in Western Australia, there's Women in Tech, WITWA WA, or WITWA, which is Women in Tech WA. So groups like that, where you can go, they hold events, and you can kind of have an in-person support group, which is really good as well. So I think things are changing. I think we're and maybe that's another good bit of advice, is just know that things are getting better, because we're at this weird time right now where things like Gamergate and things like what's happening with Donald Trump in the States are showing all of the terrible things that are happening. And it's almost like we had to get to this point for things to change. It's almost like we've regressed since the 90s, where I feel like things are a little bit better.
It's like flushing the bugs out under the carpet sort of thing, getting them out in the open. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just because it's finally getting to this point where it's so bad, and it's so obvious that it's bad, and it's so publicly bad, that there's nothing we can do but start to make that better and just not accept it anymore. So it's simultaneously really, really frustrating right now, but it's making me a lot more hopeful that things are going to get better.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to feel that as well. Definitely, I think. But yeah, you're right. There's a lot of detoxing that needs to be done first, I think. So obviously you keep yourself very busy, and you're by nature a very busy person. Is there sort of a go-to game, whether that be board game or video game, that you use to sort of zone out, relax? Do you have time for video games or games?
It's a game called yoga.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
I had to start doing yoga a few years ago because I got really bad RSI, like, the repetitive strain injury from using the computer for too long. Yeah. My sister dragged me to a yoga class, and I was very skeptical about it, but it actually really, really helped. So you used to have to wear these like crazy cyberpunk gloves to keep my wrists in a proper position, because they would hurt all the time, and I don't have that problem anymore. And yeah, yoga is really great. It's not a thing that a lot of technology people are into, but it's like a great counter posture to playing lots of video games and being on the computer all the time. I think everybody's on the computer all the time, so it just clears your head, and it's really, really great. So I can't say enough good things about it.
No, I'm a proponent of yoga as well, and it really is. It's a counterpose, literally, to playing games and working in an office. You bend the other way, and everything cracks. That's how it works.
And then you feel much better to go home and get back to doing it all again.
Yeah, exactly right. So VR obviously is virtual reality is the sort of the buzz game at the moment, and it's really coming to the forefront of gaming, and it's gaining a lot of interest even outside of sort of immediate tech circles now. Is it the next big thing, or is AR a bit of a VR killer? So as soon as AR becomes to the forefront, is that just going to overtake VR, or is there always going to be a place for VR, do you think?
Well, I know a lot of people are saying VR is a fad, like 3D TV, but I think if you've tried VR, especially like the HTC Vive or the Sony PlayStation VR, you're going to see that it's definitely not a fad. The games industry is really interesting because it's leading what's happening. I mean, I think a lot of industries are like, okay, we get that this VR thing is happening, but we don't really get how to use it or what it's for. And the games industry has already figured it out. And the same for VR, for AR as well. Like Pokemon Go, again, is a great example of how, how games are kind of like the killer app or the kind of obvious use case for it. I don't think that AR is going to kill VR because I think they're totally different, just like I don't think AR and VR are going to kill screen-based games. I mean, we still read newspapers and listen to the radio, and those are super old technologies. I think there's always going to be – it's just a different way of engaging, and it's why people play mobile games versus games or play mobile games when they're on a train, but then when they come home, they play their console. So just different – different moods, different situations, different contexts. And so I think that I think it's going to shift what's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to kill anything else.
Great. I know that Jam and I are really looking forward to playing Minecraft in our lounge rooms more than anything else. Right now on the HoloLens, or what's promised on the HoloLens, would be great.
I was going to say that I noticed that it was a big sort of topic of discussion this week at the Perth Knowledge Week that you've just been involved in as well. Was there any sort of other interesting points of view that sort of came forward with regards to the current VR and AR trends, or was that almost like a condensing of the current thinking that we've seen out there for many months now as to just needing that investment to really take off?
Yeah, actually, so I think I was the only one talking about AR and VR last week, surprisingly. But also maybe not surprisingly because it's Perth still.
Yeah.
We're getting better, but still talking about mining a lot, which is what we do. But that's okay. So it was pretty cool. So I did a panel on Perth 2030, which was looking at the future of Perth, obviously, and what that might look like. And there actually was, I take that back. There was a mention of the HoloLens in that. So they talked about the HoloLens, not from a gaming perspective, but just how that's going to shift how people communicate and how they work and where they live and all of that good stuff. And then, in my workshop, I did a really interesting, I think it was really interesting because I'm usually doing the weird analog physical world games that don't use any technology or use minimal technology. So I'm rethinking those now as analog augmented reality games. So we did one of those at the beginning and then talked about it and kind of deconstructed it, did a play test. And then we played some VR games. And so the point of that was to show that you can actually get into VR or get into making games without actually having to code. And there are many benefits of that, but one of them is that you can actually paper prototype and create stuff and test it to see how it's going to work before you jump into creating any expensive digital prototypes. But also just in terms of encouraging people, I think, to start making things that go beyond the screen, which is useful for AR and VR anyway.
Yeah.
That kind of thinking.
It's like a live feedback loop kind of thing going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So you've obviously spent a bit of time sort of researching tech in general when it comes to these sorts of interactive learning and games related experiences. Have you seen any other transformational tech besides AR and VR specifically in recent years that you think could actually show some future promise for the industry, or is it very much just focused on those things now? There's really interesting stuff happening around kind of the Internet of Things, which has been happening for a really long time. Internet researchers have been talking about that for a really, really long time. And that's basically just the idea of having kind of a sliver of the Internet in everything. And that kind of connects with wearables as well, which I think is going to be another piece of, I think there's already kind of add-ons with Apple Watch for games and stuff. I'm not a super huge fan of wearables simply because I don't like having things on my body that are tracking me all the time. And also, I'm also very wary of just
like radiation from Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. So I'm a bit, I'm like super into technology, but I really also worry about all of the things we're doing to ourselves. Like they even say VR, you shouldn't be letting kids under 12 play because we just don't know. And we don't even know what it's doing to adults either. It's kind of a bit of an experiment that we're involved in. So, I think that's going to be a big thing. And like if you look at what's happening with the new wireless headphones for Apple, like that's again that kind of wireless thing where it's just going to be. I think the goal is to get us used to having all of these turning into cyborgs basically, and then the next thing will implant implantables. Which again, I'm not really a fan of that, but I think there's a lot of people who are super excited about it.
I'm one of those. Hello.
Yeah.
People already putting chips in their hands.
Yeah, I think there's a far cry from, having a microchip inserted, which, you can use to pay your credit card bills and things compared to having a screen on your fridge, which lets you order groceries from the internet. So there's a bit of a jump.
Yes.
Now, obviously, when it comes to getting people to the party with any of this sort of technologies and, the games industry in general, investment's a pretty key part of that. And in Australia, we've obviously had a bit of a history with investment not being as accessible as maybe we'd like it to be. Some areas like Victoria have had a bit better luck with that than we have over in WA due to the focus on the mining sector and that kind of thing. But I get the impression from a lot of the people that we've spoken to in the last 12 months that getting people who are in those positions of power, like, people in government and, some of the, the venture capitalists out there to actually understand what gaming means in terms of the benefits that it brings and why it is a good investment for them to make, really helps with that. What do you see as the kind of progress we're making as an industry in regards to that and through the contacts and discussions you've had? Is there a sort of slowly shifting perception, or is it something that you think is very much still a big struggle?
It's still a big struggle, but it is shifting. So a big part of what I've been doing in the past I've been doing it really intensely in the past 2.5 years. But when I actually first moved here, there was I created Parse's first alternate reality game, Ghost Town, in 2007 for the Bite Me Festival. Mm-hmm. We actually got Francis Logan, then Minister of Finance, to come, which was really great. And I don't think I've had a minister come to any of my games or events since, but that's fine. But even back then, that was what I was arguing for, is we need to have proper support. We need to have proper funding. And so in the past 2.5 years, a lot of what I've been doing is just getting government people. We got Scott Ludlam, but he's kind of, not kind of, he's definitely a games industry ally. Like he's, doing a lot of work to support us. But also just getting local mayors and stuff to come to events in the games industry and getting investors and venture capitalists to come. And that's been working really well. I'm now a committee member of the E-Group, which is basically like a monthly meetup of kind of investors and entrepreneurs. And they invited me to be a part of that because I've been doing a lot and talking about the games industry and advocating for the games industry. And they do see a definite kind of economic investment potential. So that's why that happened. But it's just like that continual kind of education for investors and education for the government. I don't think we still have a lot to do with convincing the government, but Labour, when I advised on their ICT policy, actually is going to support games if they get in. So that's really great. In terms of, if they get in next year, then that would be really great. In terms of the current government, they're doing some stuff with innovation, which is really good. And I was invited to the Innovation Summit, but not very many people talking about games. I'm hopeful that they'll announce game support because they have a $20 million funding that they haven't allocated yet. I'm hopeful. Well, maybe I'm optimistic, but I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but I'm hoping it will. But yeah, I think we still have a lot more work to do. And it's just a matter of continuing to kind of educate and be annoying.
You don't ask, you don't get. That's the golden rule, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's exactly.
But I mean,
right.
The games industry is $100 billion globally. And, it's just kind of a no-brainer to bring, diversify the economy and create jobs. And so I just kind of still boggles my mind why it's not an easy sell, but.
Yeah, the return on investment's it's proven.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
And Victoria are leading the way. Yeah.
Incentive, some competition.
Yeah. So just before we started recording, we found out and we're devastated to hear that you won't be joining us in Melbourne next week. Did you want to share maybe why you're not going and your project here in Perth at the moment?
Yeah, so so my role at FTI running the games program, been working on a co-working space. So we had, it's called Level 1. A lot of games industry people are already coming to that. We had it run for I think it was about a year out of SK Games as a full-time kind of trial to see the viability of it, and it was quite successful, and to the point where we actually have a number of studios who want to co-locate with us. So they moved to Melbourne, unfortunately, to start SK Bar, which I'm very eagerly looking forward to go see, which I will have to wait, but that's something to look forward to. But so they moved, and we lost the space with them, but that's okay because we need to get something bigger. So can't say where it might be, but I think things are progressing, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting. But it's basically a games co-working space for the games industry and kind of related creative practitioners or people kind of working in and around games, like maybe audio people or people who are kind of wanting to get involved with the games industry. And it's kind of like the Arcade Melbourne, but with a WA twist and flair to it.
Just amazing. And the implications locally, I think, is great. You have open workspaces like this, all the research points to that all it does is create sort of further innovation and more interest and spark more ideas between people and more collaboration, which really needs to happen a lot more if our fledgling guys are going to get off the ground. So it's really cool to hear.
I stroked my chin as I asked this question. Have you considered a podcasting studio within that space?
Since we're in FTI, we do film and TV as well. We do have a recording studio in our current location, so it might be that we add that in, just because the longer term vision of it is actually to be a hub for anybody working in film, TV, games, interactive, and web stuff as well. So I could see that definitely being something that we would want to have as part of it.
Excellent.
So
There
exciting.
you go, Luke. You don't ask, you don't get it.
That's exactly right. Nice. Excellent. All right. Well, that's a ton of stuff, and it's awesome to pick the brain of someone who's working across a whole bunch of different aspects locally, and I think it's extremely exciting what's going on at the moment. There's been quite a few things that have given me a lot of hope and promise, sort of seeing the way the industry has developed over the last year or so. It was only about 12 months ago at PAX 2015 that there was a big discussion on there at the Boss Mode panel, where a lot of the experts at the sort of got up on stage and sort of said, look, gaming industry is really not being supported at the moment. This is terrible. It seems like we're making a bit of progress, which is good. So, no doubt your work's continuing to assist with a fair bit of that as well. So is there anything else sort of just while we've got you that you want to sort of call out attention to or give a bit of a shout out to? What else is coming up in the near future and what's going on in Dr. Kate Land?
I just finished with Wariana Street Media a Indigenous card game to teach Aboriginal governance, so basically the rules of society, and you play the game, and the rules of the game are actually the rules of society. So it's pretty cool and it's pretty fun, and I just came out, and it turned out that it's Australia's first Indigenous card game. So I'm really proud to have been able to support Wariana Street Media. They're a Indigenous-run media organization up in Roebourne, and they came up with the concept, and I just helped them create it. But it was just a really awesome project to be involved with, and that just came out. Sweet.
So it's on sale now, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure if they haven't figured out how they're going to distribute it, because it wasn't designed to be like a large scale thing. It was designed for kids up in Roebourne, in northern WA. So, but they've started to get a lot of requests. There's been a bit of media coverage, and so a few people are asking how to get their hands on it. So I don't think they've worked that out yet, but definitely trying to meet kind of the demand outside of just Roebourne, which is really great because it's kind of a really good way to kind of advocate and teach non-Indigenous people about Indigenous culture, and I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea.
Nice.
Love it.
rife with great storytelling is the experience I've had. So there's a lot of material there that I think could be shared, really readily it could be great experiences to be had, which is awesome. Anyway, keep an eye out for that one. Well, all right. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight, Dr. Kate. And I think we will have to, pick your brain again at some point in the future. Any sort of exciting events and developments that sort of come up, we'll give you a buzz and see if we've got someone who can actually say a few things about that and talk from the perspective of someone who's actually working in the industry amongst these sorts of things. So thanks very much again for hopping on tonight. It'll be great to chat to you again soon.
Thanks. I'd love to be back again.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, well, time for us to kick into what we've been playing recently, and that means, of course, that it is time for Operation Mimonaut update number... what are we up to, 4?
That was a terrible
Dramatic.
drum roll.
No,
That
yeah.
was the worst drum roll.
If I had a drum roll sound effect loaded, I'd put that in, but yeah, cool. Anyway, we know what this is.
Edit it in.
Memo not update number 4. So this week we got the schedule announced for PAX, so I can talk about the games that I've been playing. Not that I guess I couldn't, but people like to be able to see what each of the rounds are for themselves. So the update is that the very first round came out, and it is in the best order it could be, really. So the 5 games involved are in order: Uno, Rascals, which is a really awesome game on the Xbox 360. Western Press, which we discussed last week, which is maybe why we were playing it.
Yep.
And Bop It, which I believe it will be in the evening on Saturday. And then round 5 prior to the finale is Sonic 2. So in the last week, I have played a lot of Uno with Jam, and we learned all of these spectacular rules that we didn't know were actual rules of Uno. We've been playing Uno wrong our entire lives.
I have all of these house rules that popped up somehow.
Give me an example.
I
Give me an
imagine
example.
that's the case for
So,
most
for
people.
example, the major thing is in the pack of Uno cards, you've got the draw 2 cards, you've got the wild card, and then you've got the wild card draw 4, right? If, for example, you're playing around and the cards are green, and you play the wild draw 4 card and say turn it to blue, anybody at the table can challenge you at that point, and if you had a green in your hand, you have to pick up 4. If you didn't, like you were legitimately, that was the only choice you had to play at that point, then the person who challenged you picks up 6 cards.
Oh.
That's
what?
official
See,
Uno rules.
I
What
knew
the
that
hell?
one. I actually knew that one. What I didn't know was that you can't stack draw 2s.
No, the draw 2
That
is not a
was
stackable thing.
Frustrating.
It's very
because
hard
the
and fast.
times-
You pick up 2 and you lose your go, so you don't
Yeah,
even
but-
get a chance to play.
Wow.
The thrill of having it build and not knowing if it's going to land on you, that just makes me sad.
I'm wondering now how many people are going to go in and not know this stuff and get totally caught out, because I would not have had any
I
idea
hope
about
lots, because
Well-
I did not know some of those as well.
Well, we're going to have to. Well, that's the thing.
Go Memo.
So then we started having like this chat about whether they'll have their own house rules or how
I
it will be
imagine not.
played. Or anyway, so we don't know. I'm just making sure that I'm refreshing my mind. One thing that I know that I'm great at is playing cards. I'm good at playing poker, so I'm pretty sure I can give that sort of deadpan face when somebody challenges me and fake them out.
But
Just
Make-
picture
You've
that
got to remember-
I've told you a great joke or something. Just picture that. You'll get the deadpan perfect. Yeah.
Got
No,
to
we want
remember
deadpan,
to call
not
Uno.
crying.
Yes, I
forget
kept
to
forgetting
call
to
Uno.
call Uno. so
Everyone's
many
going to call you
times.
out. The whole audience,
Yeah.
me included, is going to be going, she didn't call Uno.
Oh yeah, it's so
you
true.
will get caught.
So,
Super supportive.
yeah, so of all the games to come out first, that was probably that's playing into my hand. So I played a little bit of that. I played Sonic 2, but that's a little bit hard to practice other than just playing it, because you don't know how they're going to use the game to eliminate people.
Well, it's going to be a Final Four sort of setup for sure if it's the final round before the
For that one,
grand
yeah.
finale. Yeah.
And obviously Western Press. So Western Press is the first round on the second day, so the third round in total. And I do not hold high hopes for my abilities under pressure in that game, let
Have
alone
you tried
in that
both
game.
controller setups yet? Like keyboard and controller, just
Yes,
in case?
yeah.
Okay.
So I've tried both.
But Xbox or PlayStation? Ooh.
Oh, it's Xbox. It's an Xbox game, so I'm going to assume
Oh,
it'll be
really?
Xbox. Yeah.
They'll pull it out and be
Okay.
like, no, PCs, ha-ha!
That'd
Yeah.
be
Just
funny.
wait. Just wait.
yeah, so Rascal's Jam is lending me her 360 on the weekend, and we're on leave from our day jobs as of Friday, so we're going to play the crap out of some games.
We're going to have an
Tuesday.
Omega montage.
Yeah, let's say cue the montage.
Yeah, so that'll be cool. So yeah, that's where my update's at. So I'm more happy that I can talk to about it. I know what order they're going to be in, and I'm starting to plan my PAX journey.
So
I will be at every single round. So if you guys are coming to PAX, I will be at, even if I don't make it through like the first round, if I'm out in the first round, I'll still attend every single event.
I thought you were just being really confident and going to be like, yep, I'm going to be in every round. Let's do this. I was like,
not at all.
Nice.
But what I can do is be super encouraging for others and hand out like high fives and fifth bumps to people. I'm going to be a great sport. Also, I'm in an app. So check out the app. I'm in the app.
If people want to come and actually cheer you on, is the first opportunity on Friday at 2 p.m, is that right?
That is correct, in the Kookaburra Theatre.
Galah Theatre.
Galah. It's the Galah.
Good thing you got Jamie
Galah,
around.
mate.
Yeah. So
I
for
happen to have the schedule open right now.
for the people who are listening outside of Australia, PAX Australia, all of their theatres are very Australian named. There's the Drop Bear Theatre, the Galah Theatre, and the Kookaburra Theatre. So
And the GameSpot
All
Theatre.
real animals.
and the GameSpot Theatre, because it's
Drop Bear
sponsored.
Theatre has actual drop bears.
Yeah.
Rite of passage.
Smear that Vegemite behind your ears, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine. Come check it out. This will be the second to last Memo Not update before PAX. So, next update will be intense. We'll see.
Sweet. All right, well, we spent a bit of time talking to Dr. Kate about VR-related stuffs, and Jamie, you finally caught up and played a VR game that we've all had some time with that you hadn't up until Monday. So tell us about what you thought of Symphony of the Machine.
I was so impressed. It was so cool. So it was my second ever VR experience. The first being a really basic one a couple years back, and my first time trying the Vive. And it was so incredibly responsive. I mean, I've heard people tell me how smooth it is, but I was very impressed because, you're never quite sure, am I going to detect any latency, feel a bit sick or anything? Worked a treat. And the game itself is fascinating. I had the advantage of not going first, so I got to watch some other people play it and get a handle on the mechanics. But, it's so cleverly done and interesting, and I'm really keen to see. I mean, I only got 5 minutes with it, but I want to know what happens. And I want to crack all of those puzzles.
So did you agree with my sort of take on it, that it was, there was Witness-like elements in sort of the VR setup? Yeah, absolutely. You've got to, we had a helpful person standing off to our side giving us cues because we only had 5 minutes with the game. And to stop us getting tangled in our cables, which was very considerate. But it was remarkable in that it really honestly doesn't have too many instructions, but there's enough on screen to help you intuit what you're supposed to do next and how you're supposed to manipulate. And I want to know what the whole point is, the purpose, the end game. I was telling V, I'm like, what does it do? What happens when I solve all the puzzles? And it's so cool. I have a little bit of an idea, but I don't know what's going to change in development because they're obviously still, workshopping that one a fair bit. So it'll be interesting to see how it evolves over time.
And Memo, I don't know if you had already gone into your headset when I did it, but I managed to get the seed the right way around.
Oh, good. Yeah, there was the next sort of evolution of the game was sort of planting and growing a seed, and for whatever reason, all of the people before us put it in upside down. So, poor plant.
So it's growing down through the pot.
Yeah. Poor plants.
Poor plant.
No green thumbs in the VR world.
Shocking.
So speaking of growing stuff, Jam and I got to get some hands-on time during the week with growing our new civilizations. So the Civ 6. Sorry,
so
Memo.
good.
Yeah. Look, I will maintain my position that I mentioned to you on the phone during the week. I reckon you'll be able to play this. Civilization 6 does not come across as a massively computer-intensive game to me.
But see, the thing is, I had the FPS overlay on my computer, and it was dropping below 40.
Ooh.
So I don't know how or why, because there wasn't a lot of animation going on. So something there's I don't know.
Yeah, don't know.
While you guys talk, I'm going to look up screenshots of this game.
Okay, cool. So,
I'm gonna see.
yeah, I mean, Jam and I sort of kicked off playing separate games during the week when it came out, and having a bit of a play around. And I was sort of relearning all of my Civ sort of stuff from years gone past because I kind of had forgotten most of it. And then we decided to give multiplayer a try. And a couple of turns later, it was 2 a.m. And I think at that point, I had literally just declared war on Jam, and things were going rapidly downhill for me, so I'm kind of glad we got off at that point.
It was not very subtle, man. I mean, gather on my border, and I say, mate, and you say, oh, I'm going to attack the city-state above you, but you weren't even near them. It was rubbish. So I just surrounded you.
I kind of wanted to see...
Sledgehammer.
Yeah, well, I wanted to see how penalised I was going to be for actually initiating that and starting the trouble, and the impression I'm getting is very penalised, because the stuff that can happen to you when you become known as a warmonger amongst some of the other civilizations is pretty bad. I mean... Yeah, the hostility that I'm going to have to face from pretty much the entire map now, let alone Jam, is going to be considerable.
Your timing was so rubbish.
Oh,
I've just made alliances with like every civilization I've met bar you.
Yeah.
And I denounced you to them because you were gathering on my borders. So yeah, that was a interesting move, man.
Mm-hmm. It was
oh my god,
I'm
loving the game.
Yeah.
So
the funny thing was, because we were getting a handle still on a lot of the new functionality in the game, and I'm absolutely loving the changes they've made since Civ 5, which is the last time I've done it. And it's magical, but we were still learning, and we were finding that we were having like up to 30 minutes or more without actually talking to each other. And then something would happen, and we'd be like, oh, you're there. Hurry up now. What are you deciding on? Because it's concurrent turns. You're having a go at the same time, but you can't start the next round until everyone's done. But it's brilliant. I love the districts mechanic that they've added. That's a really interesting way of adding that construction sort of visually to the city, and also making you really think about how you're going to branch out and what you're going to dedicate the city to, because, it's a huge investment to try and remotely get every district in each city. But, so cool.
Yeah. I want to spend a lot more time with the new religion mechanic, I've decided.
Yes, I've hardly tried it.
Scratched the surface of that. Yeah, so that should be very, very interesting to mine a little bit more of. So a couple of things I just want to say quickly about the game. First one is, even if you're not going to play Civilization 6, you should hop on to YouTube and have a look at the opening cinematic for the game, because it is absolutely jaw-dropping. It is awesome. And I'm sure that you'll be able to find it in numerous places online. And the second thing is that the entire game is actually narrated by none other than Sean Bean, and it is the most perfect casting choice ever. He absolutely kills it. It's fantastic. So
very good.
Those nice dulcet tones, those sort of calm. It's really nice. It kind of puts you
Does
in
the narrator get killed at one point?
No, well, yeah, probably not.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah.
No, I'm not
This is
sure.
some really good narration.
Yeah.
Aww.
No.
It was the best of times.
No idea. But speaking of getting killed, Ollie, what have you been playing this week?
War is hell.
What is it good for?
Nothing, apparently, besides making my computer not melt, actually, which was rather pleasant. So turns out I can run Battlefield 1 on Ultra, and it is the most beautiful thing I've played in a very long time.
Oh, how many of the different levels have you played?
I've played one of each. I've played each map now in multiplayer, and I've finished the single player.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I thought I'd seen them all, and then I'd play a new one, and it's stunning. And I'm just completely amazed.
I still think my favourite is the original desert one that we got to play in the beta. I think that's my favourite map.
Oh, they not put that one back in?
Yeah.
No, as in that's my favourite map out of the lot.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that or one of the city ones that we played a couple of times, Luke. I don't remember the name, and I can't remember it. The one with the bridges and the train.
Yeah, where you could actually get down in
blank.
the under the bridges into the big gullies.
Yeah.
Yep, that was very cool.
Yeah.
I actually had some technical issues with that map. I found I was getting my screen was blacking out when I walked through doorways, and if I stood near corners of certain buildings, it'd cut out or go blue. It was really strange.
I haven't encountered
Maybe
any of that
my beast
glitchiness
isn't good
yet,
enough.
but it's funny you mentioned that because the honest trailer for Battlefield 1 actually came out today. And even though I haven't experienced it yet, one of the things that they did make light of was some of the weird sort of, character dynamics and the glitching, and there were some pretty funny bits that they showed in the clips.
My favourite one that I encountered was only in the single player, mind you. It's when you're playing the Australian campaign and you're going up into the fort. I had one guy bayonet charge at me through a wall, run straight past me, run through another wall, and then out through the fort. I'm like, bye.
That's magic.
Goodbye, strange ghost.
Okay. Different. But I haven't encountered any in multiplayer yet.
I hear there's levels that involve animals in
There
some
are
sort
horses.
of
You can
critical
ride
way.
horses.
You can ride horses, and
No.
the horses can get their shit blown out of them by tanks. Just like IRL.
Horrible.
I'll have to look it up. I was listening to another podcast and they were talking about I think it must have been the single player campaign then, where there's elements that involve animals and relying on animals.
Oh, okay, I didn't play one of those, but there is a
is-
pigeon mode.
The pigeon thing, that's the one I was going to mention. Yeah, that's a pretty cool moment.
So one of the pigeons in that is actually based on a true story, which I think is fascinating that they've gone to that depth in it.
Is that the pigeon that received the medal?
Yep, its name is Jeremy.
I heard of that pigeon. I didn't know he was in the game. That's adorable.
Oh, dear.
It'll make you
super
cry. We'll talk about it offline. I'll just get too teary.
Hero pigeon.
So there's 5, is there, sort of mini campaigns that makes up the single player mode? And I think 5
Pro, tank,
five's about right.
plane, Aussie, desert.
There's Arabia.
Yeah,
there's
6. There's 6.
There's 6, okay. Not counting the prologue, which of course is its
Okay,
own.
then there's 5.
Yeah, okay, cool. So the prologue was the thing that really blew me away, first off, literally and figuratively. So basically the prologue for Battlefield 1 puts you into a bunch of different soldiers' shoes in different sort of settings, and it actually warns you up front of the prologue you are not expected to survive. And the whole point is it's basically showing you guys getting cut down in a whole bunch of different theatres of war using different kit. So you've got a bit of an opportunity to familiarise yourself with each different style of fighting, but it also really hammers home the horrors of war and how cheap life is. Because it just... you basically are against all odds, and you will eventually run out of ammo if you don't get shot to death, and you'll just die regardless. There's no way to actually win each of those scenarios. It's just to sort of show you. But it sets the tone really effectively. I thought it was excellent the way they kicked off.
That's
with
one
that.
thing I genuinely like with this game. It doesn't glorify it. I should say in the single player campaign, obviously, because multiplayer is its own little beast. But yeah, at no point is it like, yeah, we're fucking amazing. Look at us go. This is the best thing ever. It's all like, no. This is actually just the worst experience of my life. Like, what the hell did I sign up for?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I genuinely like that because it was a really shit war, and that's World War One is definitely one of the grey wars, whereas like World War Two is like, there's definite baddies, whereas World War One is just like, yeah, we just didn't have manners. That's why we have a war now. Oh dear.
Yep. The war to end all wars that actually made things considerably worse. So yeah. No, it was interesting. It really is. It hammers home when you're playing multiplayer too, because it's not one of those games where you can sort of drop into a map like Overwatch, for instance, and soak up a fair bit of firepower and have like a decent sort of run on that map before you actually go down. In this, you get shot real quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I run towards its objective. Headshot. Blah.
Yeah.
Machine gun nest. Random artillery. Plane. Tank. You're just like, man.
Spawn on map. 2 seconds later, dead again.
Yeah. Don't spawn on Jamie.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to end well.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to find that balance between like what is actually a good fun play experience versus what is actually a more realistic representation of how dangerous this shit is. And I tend to think they've probably erred a little bit more on the side of realism when it comes to how non-survivable everybody is, which is it can be
I like
frustrating
that,
at times. Yeah,
Like at no point should I be like going, all right, I'm one guy, I'm going to take on 10. Like at multiple points, I've gone, all right, I've captured this point. This is awesome. All right, there's one guy coming. All right, I'll ping off a few shots. Oh god, there's 20. Murdered.
I mean, at least sometimes when you're really getting smashed, you can, respawn on the map inside a tank or inside a vehicle or a plane or something like that. So it gives you a chance to survive a little longer.
They give you the train to try and rebalance the game.
We feel sorry
losing?
for you.
You suck?
Here you go.
Here you go,
Have a cool thing.
But it doesn't really rebalance it, though, because what tends to happen is that the side that's getting smashed gets one of those big behemoths to sort of, jump in and start, cruising across the map and blowing everything up. But what that means is that the side that's getting smashed on capturing points is basically putting all of their forces inside one area and not spreading out and capturing points. So they get further behind.
Well, yeah, if they don't do it properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good fun. Mm-hmm. I'm especially impressed with my little magic medic's needle that I can just go,
medic is my class of choice.
Run away now.
Yep. You
So
get gassed
good.
to death, needle, you're fine. Carry on.
That's it. Yep.
So realistic.
Oh, it is. That's one thing I love about that. It's like, all right, take cover, do this. Okay. Oh, watch out. Bullets whizzing everywhere. Just run forward, stab a guy with a needle, pat him on the back. Yep, you're good, mate. Off you go.
Yep.
It's just a scratch.
Don't worry about that tank shell. She'll be right,
Just
eh?
a flesh wound.
I'm super glad that it's a good game and it's a good shooter, because I tell you what, there is no lack of choice when it comes to shooters coming out in the next few weeks. I mean, we've got Call of Duty Infinite Warfare hitting very shortly. Titanfall 2 is already getting extremely good press currently, and I kind of want to take a look at that, but then I look at the fact that between Civ, Battlefield 1, continuing to play Overwatch, continuing to play Hearthstone, everything else.
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft, Legion. Good God. I mean, the Legion 7.1 patch with the new Karazhan dungeon just dropped today. I'm at capacity. This is it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of extra time every week and I don't sleep much, but I am at capacity. There is no way I could push anything else into this. So we will see. And, not to mention PAX.
Yeah.
We will see. We'll see. Anyone been playing anything else, or is that pretty much a good summary of the week? I think that's a bunch of stuff.
Pretty much
All for me.
Pretty much it. All right.
Well, a little bit of mini Metro, but I think we'll do more about that at PAX.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got quite a few things to check out. So it's been a fairly light week with gaming news, but the stuff that has been happening are pretty big items, and one in particular which we probably want to dig into properly in a minute. A couple of quick ones first. So the trailer that we mentioned last episode for Red Dead Redemption 2 actually did drop. What was everyone's impressions of that trailer? What did you think?
Good.
It was
Left more
beautiful.
questions. Yeah.
It was very beautiful, but very testosterone-y.
Yeah,
Is that the way
where are the
to say
badass
it?
ladies of the Wild West? There you go.
Exactly. Frontier life was a bitch, and those women had to be hard. So I just hope there's some awesome chicks. And I'm not saying they all have to be strong either, but show
There has to
some
be some, though.
females. Yeah,
They existed. They were
They
part
did.
of the Wild West, guys. It was.
we
it
can
was-
deduce
Yeah.
by the mere fact that the population continued that there were women.
Yeah. Popular media would have you think otherwise, of course. Like,
They were all the bar wenches.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hey,
You'll
Horse had
get
their role
yours.
too. Horse had their role
Well,
too.
I'll get my own bar wench.
They
Fuck
worked
yes.
hard for their monies. They really did.
Yep.
They got all the information.
Been watching Westworld lately, and they've just introduced a female sort of mercenary character in that, which is almost
Still
like
need to
your
watch
Calamity
that.
Jane kind of stereotype. Super cool character. I'd love to see something like that in Red Dead Redemption 2. So
I'm sure we will.
Definitely
though, to
having
be
like
fair.
a Wild West revival, though. I'm feeling it.
yeah, it's kind of it
Got
is
the
feeling that
vibe.
way a bit.
Got the vibe. Well, maybe it's because I saw Magnificent Seven like a week ago. I've been playing Western Press. Red Dead Redemption came out, so maybe I'm just circumstantial.
Could be.
Yeah,
Could
it
be.
sounds like.
No, the trailer looks good. I am very curious to see what the online version is going to look like, and obviously it's too hard to sort of gain any idea of that from the trailer that we were shown. Again, it's not very clear what the situation with John Marsden, whether he's going to be the main protagonist or not, whether it's going to be a prequel or a sequel. That's still a bit unclear. So, but the groundscape looks amazing. I think they have made it look absolutely beautiful. So, looking forward to that a great deal.
I don't think they would have called it Red Dead Redemption 2 if it wasn't a sequel. I think they would have chosen
Yeah,
a
brand
different,
name's
I
a
don't
thing.
know.
a different
I've been
Brand
art.
name's
listening-
a thing.
I've been listening to lots of different like people talk about this, and I think I'm on both sides. It could be either or. It could be. Remember how when we were talking about last week that it could just be a stupid name, like they're just calling it Red Dead Redemption 2, but it's actually the prequel.
Red Dead Redonkulous. That's what I want.
Red Dead Out of Order. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it could be.
Who knows?
Who knows? Interesting.
Find out more.
All right, so very, very, very quick bit of Hearthstone news. I won't spend long on this one, but it is BlizzCon relevant, so I think it's probably one worth just quickly checking over. So at BlizzCon, of course, is going to be the Hearthstone World Championships. There are going to be the top competitors from every region coming together to fight for the grand prize for the entire year. And people who play the game can actually put a bit of a wager on who they think is going to win. And the way it works is that everyone with an active Hearthstone account can basically hop onto the Battle.net website, select one of the players that is competing. I think there's 16 by memory. I could be wrong. There might be 20, but 16's ringing a bell. But depending on which player you pick, every game that they actually win at the event will win you a free pack in the game. So if you pick the person who obviously goes through and wins the entire thing, you can end up with 6 free packs at the end of it for absolutely no cost to yourself and just sort of taking part in the fun. So I think it's a really clever way to get Blizzard to sort of get everyone to become a little bit more invested in the event and maybe check out some of the esports scene and learn a bit more about the competitors. It's something they haven't done before, so I thought it was quite interesting. So there you go. Be interesting to see if they do anything like that in the future with some of their other titles and the competitive events. Because going to see some of them get
doing with Overwatch, World Cup Overwatch. Bet on the team, get a loot box.
Yeah.
It's bringing in a crowd over and above the normal esports crowd, which is quite smart. Quite smart.
I think so. Be cool. Now, somebody in our group, and I think it was possibly Jam or Imogen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, brought our attention to the game industry voice actors strike. Yeah, do you want to tell us about what's going on there?
Yeah, so one of the largest unions of actors and voice talent in general, and I'm going to get parts of this potentially incorrect, so apologies if I offend anybody.
Never apologise.
SAG-AFTRA. Which is sort of a union of people basically fighting for contracts to be sort of up to date, same as any other union. So they're on strike at the moment because there has been an agreement that is very, very old that has come up for renewal and has not been renewed, fighting for voice actors in games, notably, video game studios, and trying to renegotiate elements of their contract in regards to recompense if the game is a big smash hit, and lots of other different bits and pieces and sort of arguments either side. But when it comes down to it, what it means is that these the voice talent for these video games, if they are represented by the union, will not be taking part, and that will affect some big studios. I don't have a list in front of me, but a couple of those studios do have things in development, and of course DLC and everything else is coming out for other games. So that will start to impact the pool of people that they can use and draw on for those games, as well as if they're developing new games. So don't know when this strike will break, but SAG are quite well known for being quite stringent in this regard. And I have to say that looking at both sides of the argument, the agreement, just full stop, is very old, and it was sort of up for renewal at some point and just lapsed. So everyone's just going off this old agreement, and it's never been renegotiated, and basically trying to get those renegotiations happening has meant that nothing's really happened and people are still working in conditions. And I don't know, I think there's an argument that now you've got so many big voice talents that are having such a big impact on games and why people buy games. I know certainly for me and my connection with things like Critical Role and starting to know more about the voice actors in games, they are starting to drive people to games. They're starting to be part of the marketing as would actors for movies and other things. So there is an argument there for them to get a little bit more recognition for what it is that they do.
From what I understand, one of the complications around some of the agreements with the voice actors is that often they'll be working on a game and they won't actually know the full details of what that game is going to end up being, let alone sort of how the narrative that they're helping to create actually plays into the setup for the game and how that content's going to be used. So that might make it a little challenging when it comes to actually putting agreements together, because they might not know, am I going to be one of the main characters? Am I just going to be relegated to like a sub role? they just don't know. And some of those creative decisions get made sort of during the process where some of that recording has already been completed. So,
and to give you an idea, the original contract that they're working off, so what they're working off now, was done in the 90s. Can you imagine what games were in the 90s compared to what they are now? Now we've got motion capture, they're doing stunts, they're doing a lot of more physical things, as well as the games, franchising out, and obviously retaining voice actors is a bigger deal now than it certainly was in the 90s. So it seems crazy to me that we're still operating off this one agreement. But of course, when it starts impacting games, there's always a bit of a backlash. They should just be happy that they've got jobs and everything else. But that doesn't sit well with me at all when you look at the age of the agreement that they're working on.
Reminds me a little bit of the situation we had last decade with the writers' strike that occurred in Hollywood. Yeah, very
exactly
similar situation. I mean, in this case, SAG-AFTRA, from what I understand, only makes up about 25% of the voice actors that work in the industry. But there's still some pretty big names in that group. I mean, you've got Jennifer Hale, who did the FemShep voice for the Mass Effect trilogy.
Best ever.
Yeah. David Hayter, who people will recognise as the original Solid Snake voice from Metal Gear Solid. If there's some notable personalities getting involved there and making a few waves, I think it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think probably rightly so to request this kind of reform, given you said it right, Imogen, how long this thing has been in place and how archaic the agreement is. So absolutely.
You can understand them not wanting to publish game details when they put out the casting call completely perfectly. You want to hold information close. Games don't get announced till later on. But once you come to the point where you've selected a voice actor and you're negotiating their contract, I mean, how can the voice actor not deserve a bit of information so that they can negotiate from a strength of knowledge and certainty?
Yeah. Particularly when the game is marketed on the basis of that voice actor. Like, if they market a Batman game and saying, we've got Mark Hamill playing the voice of the Joker, that's a major marketing point for them. Again, Uncharted earlier in the year, we've got Nolan North, again playing Nathan. Was it Nathan Drake that he played, or was it one of the other characters? I can't remember. But yeah, I mean that's a big thing that they're basically saying.
Sean Bean in Civilization,
exactly,
still a voice actor in video games.
Great example.
The voice acting in games is becoming more and more centerpiece, certainly more than it was in the 90s, and it's not so a little bit that this hasn't been appropriately addressed already. So we just hope that it gets done and that everybody gets what they deserve, and that it doesn't impact too greatly on some of the bigger titles that we're expecting next year.
Yeah. All right. Well, shall we switch on to the biggest news topic of the week?
Oh, you made a relevant pun.
I did. Anyway, so we have had finally the big Nintendo announcement as to their next generation console, previously known as codename NX. We finally have the name for it. It is the Nintendo Switch. There has been a big sort of release trailer that got posted by Nintendo directly earlier in the week. Trailer itself went for a good 5 minutes or so. And we got a pretty decent look as to what they're actually pitching as far as the unit goes. Now, I'm going to describe it as best I can, and you guys can sort of jump in and correct any points that you feel don't accurately represent it. So some of the things that we had rumoured earlier in the year, it seems were reasonably accurate in terms of it being a hybrid console approach that was split around the idea of mobile gaming and having a fixed console in the home. So you basically have a screen that has a controller sort of peripherals attached to the sides of it, which can either sit in your hand as like a mobile sort of game unit similar to a 3DS or another sort of handheld like that, but it can also be docked on a docking station and connected to your sort of TV screen in your home. And there's a bunch of different sort of ways you can kind of rejig that setup to make it work for you depending on your needs. So you can actually connect like a separate controller, like a more traditional sort of handheld game controller, which I think they're calling the PlayStation, not the PlayStation, sorry, the Nintendo Elite controller, similar to what exists for Wii U now. And there's also the little side sort of controllers which are attached to the screen, which can disconnect and you can use them as individual sort of hand controllers, one for each hand, which they have called the Joy-Cons, so short for joystick controllers. and they can, again, sort of detach and connect to another separate controller base, which you can use when the thing is docked. So what's not clear at the moment is whether it incorporates a touch screen, because that wasn't actually shown in the video at all. I'm kind of assuming that it must do, because it would kind of be crazy if it didn't. But yeah, I mean, there's still a bunch of questions about this
It's a hell of an assumption, though.
Well,
Hell of an assumption.
I would presume it doesn't have one because they deliberately didn't show it having one, if that makes any sort of sense.
I don't know, though.
Or like we learned lessons from the No Man's Sky, because they're Nintendo and they already know this. Even if they're going to develop a touchscreen, if it's not quite there yet, maybe don't put it in the video just in case.
Possibly.
You know, and that's the thing. It's you know, they're announcing it, and you know, most of the product is there, but there's still details to come. It was amazing. It was typical Nintendo style. Notice that there was no kids at all in the ad at any stage, which has been typically a big sort of audience. Is at some point you've got, you know, parents playing with their kids or kids playing, you know, cute little games, and more excitingly, new Mario game. Woo! Super excited. So some of the first glimpses of a brand new Mario game, 3D looking Mario game. So
Look like Mario in Mexico.
As soon as I saw
almost.
that, that's it. Yeah, I'm in. I'm down. I don't care. New Mario game. Give me it. Gimme. I want it. They also showcase games like Skyrim and NBA 2K17 on it. It was pointed out to me by somebody today that something like that on a handheld might be a bit difficult to maintain in terms of battery. So, again, Skyrim would be a pretty beefy game. So whether or not it's a port that's kind of like a Microsoft Pocket Edition version.
Well, not to forget, it's like a 5+ year old game as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you'd think with the remaster coming out on the Xbox and the PS4, you wouldn't want to then be releasing a pseudo version of it on something else. I don't know. But it would be super cool to be able to like play it on the big screen and then just sort of take it out and kind of wander and go sit out in the balcony or in the garden or whatever and play some Skyrim and then head back into, you know, the portability of it, if they do it well and the battery life is good, would be awesome. There's nothing more like when you want to adjust your gaming or take gaming anywhere. We'll see. I'm not too sure about I love there's the picture of the guy and he gets on the plane and he puts it out and he has the two controllers in his hand that act as one controller, but they're not joined. And I love it. The freedom of that I would love, even if I can do that sitting on the couch, like not having it in the main controller format, the traditional sort of controller format. If I can just have those little things in my hand, oh my gosh, game changer. And again, something entirely new from Nintendo that I don't know. I wasn't predicting any of that. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think we all kind of expected something a little bit like this, but I don't know if you guys agree, but this came across as much better than I was expecting. So,
oh, definitely. Far and above. I mean, the Wii U announcement basically like didn't even register on my radar, but I want this. To the point where I cancelled my pre-order of the Super Nintendo. It's coming out in a couple of
the mini NES.
Ooh. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm going to, side story, I'm going to repair my current Super Nintendo and then look at getting the Switch when it comes out.
You realise that it's NES versus SNES, though. Like the new one's the mini NES.
I know.
Cool.
But really the game that I want to play on either, I already have. I have the cartridge for, I have the game console for, and if I'd spent what I was spending on that pre-order, I could just repair it. So I'm going to do that, and that's got more nostalgia. But yeah, I will definitely be picking this up, and that has massive implications on my want to pick up a PS4. Because I don't need to be having a PS4, an Xbox One, and a Nintendo Switch. So if I want this Switch, do I buy a PS4 and a VR? Who knows? Only Imogen's financial situation will
reveal.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Ollie, what were your thoughts on it, having seen it?
I will probably be buying one.
He said resignedly.
Yeah.
It's a tough call,
Yeah.
but I think I'm going to be forced to get one.
What I think is super interesting is that, obviously Nintendo look like they're working themselves into a position where this could be the next natural transition, not only from the Wii and the Wii U, but also from the DS market as well. Because I can't see them for too long continuing to split their game releases across multiple platforms if this is kind of like the catch-all that stuff could exist on. So, you know, what's the point of having, you know, ongoing support for 3DS?
And you did see, so one thing that was quite notable in it was that the Nintendo Switch appears to be going back to a cartridge-based system.
Yep.
And they do look about the size of the new 3DS games. So
It's
whether
been
or
confirmed
not
that they're not the same. It has
they're
been.
not the same? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, interestingly, you know, like you said, like those similarities start like transferring people across from new 3DS to the Switch. It is still quite big compared to the new 3DS though, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Are they trying to find that market, or are they just hoping that it happens? I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a big question mark. I think the cartridge move is a sensible one because when you're starting to talk about optical drives, that's a big battery drain. So, you know, battery is going to be the big question with this unit. And the one that I think is yet to be answered that will... it's going to be a little bit of a make or break because when you talk about a unit that, you know, a big part of its appeal is marketed around the mobility of being able to take it off that docking station and play it away from your home sort of environment. If it's only got a battery life of, you know, a good solid 2 hours, then that starts to look a whole lot less appealing. But I don't know. I hope that it's at least around the 4 or 5 hour mark. That would be the minimum for me. You start to look at the amount of time that you'd need to take it on a decent air flight. I think that's kind of where the baseline starts to appear. So
PAX next year.
yeah, exactly. It'd be super cool. But yeah, I don't know. It just... There's a few things that have not been confirmed that make me nervous. The touchscreen is one of them because when you're looking at the current consoles available, I mean, the 3DS and the Wii U both incorporate touchscreens. To take that away seems like a bit of a step backwards in terms of the peripherals and what you can do. But the other trick too is that both of those units, like the Wii U and the 3DS included, are also dual screen units. And you'd think that, would there be a possibility that the Switch could be used in a similar manner? So you could actually have like the screen on the Switch at the same time as the TV. But it's been confirmed that no, it is actually single screen console play. So when you undock it, basically your gameplay goes to that single screen. You don't get to use both at the same time. So again, that seems like a little bit of a step backwards, but I guess they get this really tough space where, you know, you can't actually have a peripheral setup that, you know, messes up the way games have to be developed to support it. Because, you know, if games have to be developed to support that dual screen sort of setup, and that's the only way they can go, and they have to have a way to operate when you go to only one screen. Like if you take one of those away, it still has to function. That starts to get really tricky for different developers. So maybe it's a tactical decision for them to sort of restrict it back to one and make it a lot simpler. I mean, God knows that there's a bunch of Wii U games out there that really don't make good use of the extra screen anyway. Minecraft being a really good example. So
it makes it more difficult for cross-platform as well. If Nintendo, what will make and break this console is if Nintendo keep with their line of Nintendo games or Nintendo products, and don't start to incorporate some of the other AAA titles like they, you know, showed NBA 2K17, some EA titles, you know, big sort of gaming titles, that will make or break it, I think. And they can't keep doing that if they keep sticking to the idea of a very different technology. So they kind of, like you said, it's a tough ground for them because they need to make it different, but not too different that it requires so much extra work above and beyond the Xbox and the PlayStation, I think.
yeah.
I mean, it's always going to be very difficult for them to compete with those two, but there's definitely a market for it.
I think they're very smart in not trying to directly compete with them because I mean, with a mobile unit, they're never going to compete on terms of power. You know, there's just no way. So
no, but if they can attract, you know, if Skyrim's on it, yes, 1,000 times yes. I wouldn't buy a PS4 just to play Skyrim remastered, or I wouldn't buy Skyrim remastered for my Xbox One, but I definitely buy it on the Nintendo.
That's interesting. I don't know. I kind of look at the game lineup and think to myself that, yes, it is vitally important that they get that right and have enough sort of, you know, relationships and deals done with third-party developers to pad out that library because God knows they haven't with the Wii U. But by the same token, a lot of those extra sort of, AAA titles that you see on other consoles, when it comes to Nintendo, I don't give a shit about those. I want to play Nintendo games on a Nintendo. All your classics like your Zeldas and your Marios and your Metroids and, you've got your Splatoons and stuff like that. That's the sort of stuff that I care about Nintendo for. Any of the other titles that you can get on another platform, I'm happy to play that elsewhere. So,
fair.
But there's a lot of households that only afford one console, so being able to play those big AAA games on that one console that, like, little Timmy can play, and then little Timmy's older brother can play his Call of Duty on, and then Dad can play his Mass Effect on, that's a big draw card.
Exactly.
True. All right, well, so at the moment, Ollie, you're looking at probably getting one. It's out in March.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be mandatory.
Yep. I'll be picking it up on release for sure because why not? Got to catch more.
Even though you're skeptical, I'm buying one.
I'm skeptical about a couple of things. I think it's still going to be a great console. I don't know. There's a couple of things I think could be better, but we'll see.
I have a partner who's a Nintendo fangirl. What's your excuse?
Well, my excuse is I've got two
I am a
kids that
Nintendo
will use it.
fangirl.
I figure if you all have one, why do I need to buy one?
Because we don't live in your house.
And then we could have
I'll
many controllers. Oh
I'll
my
show
gosh. 16 controllers, guys.
I'll only bring around to play with you, Jam, if you live on a rooftop, because apparently that's how it works. You can only bring it around to people's rooftop places. That's what the video taught us.
I'm going to find those little Nintendo Switch controllers all over my house. Like, they're just going to be littered everywhere. That's what's mad. They're so tiny, and it's not like they have a wrist strap or like anything else. They're just going to be everywhere. Like, if we all come over, we just put them in a big box and shake them around, and if you get your own ones, perfect.
Nice. It'll be the new thing amongst middle-aged tragics. It'll be a Nintendo swingers party. You just rock up and put your Joy-Cons in a bowl.
That's really awkward.
That was a weird segue.
Yeah.
Why?
All right.
Edit that one out, for the love of God.
Anyway.
Delete.
Undo, Control Z.
So March. We don't know exactly when in March. They have sort of said they're not going to release a lot more information for the duration of this year. We're going to find out more sort of in the early new year. But yeah, I guess that doesn't restrict any other third-party developers from announcing that maybe they've got plans for things coming up on the console.
I'm having a look at the Nintendo booth little summary on the PAX app, and it says, discover some new favorites on Nintendo 3DS and Wii U, and reacquaint yourself with some old favorites too. So I wonder if they'll be able to showcase anything about it. PAX. They've got a pretty big stand.
Yeah, they might just have the video of it going, and
that's
people to chat about it maybe. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't expect to see a physical version of it, certainly since it's not been seen in the realsies by anyone yet.
No.
Yeah.
I very much doubt Australia would be one of their first. Oh, I don't know. But
I wonder if they're going to get
things have
badgered.
happened.
Just so many questions.
Sure.
It's like, don't you want to see the things we actually have on? View. No.
Show me
Tell
the
me more.
Switch. Yeah.
Well, they've still got
Let me
game
touch
titles coming out this year that they need to focus on first. So, you know, a couple of things. I mean,
Pokemon
Sun
will be
and
the
Moon.
biggest thing. Yeah.
Oh my God.
If they have Pokemon mascots, I'm having photos with them. For sure.
I was thinking to myself,
We're
if
gonna have our
Pokemon
own.
transitions to the Switch, that is where I'm all in, baby. That would be so good. Oh my God. Just, can't.
Pokemon Go into a real Pokemon using the Inceptionize that. That'd be cool.
I don't know about
location-based Pokemon hunting with the Nintendo Switch. Do
Ugh.
it.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Sounds
like you said,
pricey.
stranger things have happened. So yeah. The price hasn't been announced yet either. So a lot of people are speculating that probably the sweet spot for them to get the market share they need is going to be around the $300 US mark or the $299 US mark. The Wii U, when it first came out, apparently was priced at $349 US. So, and which didn't do too well for them because it was a little bit too up the end of the other sort of Sony and Microsoft consoles. So we'll see. That could be a fairly big determining factor on how much this takes off in the meantime. But yeah, there you go. That's the Nintendo Switch. I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot more in months to come. But that's it. That's all the news for tonight, and that is our show. So thanks very much for listening. And if you want to check out more Party Loaded content, you can find it at our main show blog at partyloaded.com. Also, we are on social media, of course, on Facebook at facebook.com/partyloaded. We're on Twitter at partyloadedshow. Please send us an email if you've got any feedback or ideas for future episodes. Mail at partyloaded.com. And we're going
and
to
on
be...
Instagram at partyloaded.
Instagram at partyloaded, absolutely, yep. And YouTube is becoming more of a thing too. All of our episodes are going up on YouTube too, so if you prefer to watch videos there, you can. They're just audio only for our actual main show, but there's other gaming-related stuff up on the YouTube channel too, and will be more added as we go, especially a lot of content that we'll be recording while we're over at PAX Australia, which is coming up real soon. So... we have one more episode before the big convention, and then God knows what's going to happen. We're going to have so much stuff.
The whole world will change, and Imogen will become the Omega Knot.
Yep.
Oh, please.
You're awesome. All right, well, so plans between now and PAX. So you ladies mentioned you've got a bit of a practice game day coming up on Friday. Is that the focus this week?
Not on Friday. It's actually going to be after we record our next... breaking the fourth wall here, but after we won't have done it by the time we record next Wednesday's episode, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, unfortunately, but we will have solid plans in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So more Battlefield 1-ing for you, I'm assuming, Ollie. Anything else?
Yeah, a bit of Battlefield 1, bit of Overwatch. See what else I can rustle up. Maybe some Deus Ex, actually. I need to get around to playing the new Deus Ex.
Nice. I need to conscript you three into playing a bunch more Overwatch before the Halloween event finishes, because I want to crack that.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Yeah.
We've got limited time on that now. I think, because we're all going to be jumping on a plane in about a week's time, that really cuts down the available sessions that we're going to have. So, yeah.
We could do it on Saturday.
Yeah, we could definitely do it on Saturday. That would be cool. So, All right. Well, anyway, we should all hop off now, get some good sleeps, get some more games in, and we'll be back with another episode real soon in the lead up to PAX. But until then, that's us for now. Good night.
Bye.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.